Hello and welcome. This is part 3 of the No Frills sweater by PetiteKnits with me, part of my Learn to Knit series. And well, it's confession time. I've had my first major technology issue today, and I recorded a lovely intro of me finishing the Raglan increases and being at that point and talking about trying it on and everything. And when I went to edit the video just now, unfortunately that footage, in me trying to transfer it off my phone to my iPad, if anyone has any smart tips for doing that, I do not know. I currently have a Samsung phone and use my Samsung phone to transfer my files to my OneDrive, and then I access my OneDrive from my iPad to edit the videos. But for some unknown reason, it wasn't liking the video that I'd done with the intro, and in all that process, it ended up being deleted. So here I am recording the intro again without being able to show you the knitting, because obviously at this point I am further on than what you're going to see following this intro. Can't believe it. Anyways, so we are at the point now in the pattern where we have finished our Raglan increases. I have actually tried mine on and I'm happy with how it's fitting, and bearing in mind that it will also relax once it's been blocked. The neckline's a little high, but I think that will come down a bit, and that will also mean that the Raglan will be lower down on my body. But yeah, so far so good with the fit. At this point, I can't remember if this is what I said last time, so I do apologise if this isn't as good as my first cut, because my head is further along in the pattern now. But the when you get to the end of the Raglan increases, I've counted all my stitches. They are all as they should be. If they're not for any reason, what you can do is you can do 2 extra rows. So you do an increase, because in this pattern you have 1 row of increases and 1 just straight knitting row. If you need to adjust your stitch counts anywhere along the way, if it's 1 or 2 stitches out, you can do an extra couple, so 1 extra increase row and an extra thing to amend that. If it's massively off, then you may need to rip back or start again. But yeah, if you're 1 or 2 stitches out and you're not bothered, you can just carry on, because it doesn't always make a massive impact on. Raglans are quite a forgiving type of pattern, but luckily mine are all as they should be, and it's looking like it's going to be a nice cozy slightly oversized sweater on me, but that can change. If you do feel that at this point it's not deep enough or it's too deep, you can make those alterations before you join it in the round. I do find myself that I get a better idea of fit once I have joined and done about 1 centimetre, and at that point I will try and again. But I highly recommend that as you're going through knitting the body, you do try it on at regular intervals and with different trousers, because I've made the mistake of making a top, putting on a pair of trousers, knitting it where I thought it was a good length, and then realising I can only wear it with those trousers, which is quite frustrating. Yeah, so I'm gonna switch the camera around now, or I did do in my earlier shot, and you're now going to see me splitting for sleeves, and I am going to take you along while I do all that, and then you can follow along and do it as well. We'll also be doing the cast on stitches under the arms, and moving our beginning of round marker. As I just showed you a moment ago, and it's very hard to fit this in camera while showing you on the the close-ups. Apologies for all my hair stuck into my knitting. It's a hazard of having long curly hair. I have finished all the raglans. I'm up to the stitch count in the pattern, and now I am going to do the next step, which is to separate the body and the sleeves and put the sleeves on hold while we continue to finish the body. Now the first part, so we're back at the beginning of round marker here, and you can see mine here. Normally I do just knit one pass just so that I know that's securely in place, even if my needle stopper drops off, you know, just trying to prevent any sort of loss of stitches or accidents. Okay, so basically what we've got to do is knit across all these stitches, which are the half of the back, and knit up to here. Then we are going to knit this raglan stitch, which is the one in between these two markers, and we will remove these markers. And so I'll just do that now so you can see where I'm up to. Now I do have while I'm knitting this, I will just say I have a little bit of a confession to make, and that is that due to me having so many whips on the needles right now, I don't have, so I only have a few barber cords. Maybe I need to buy a few more, and they're all in projects holding sleeves. And I normally just pop my sleeves onto shorter cables ready for when I come to knit it, or on a cable of some sort. But unfortunately I don't have any available to me right now, so I'm not sure if when I started doing the podcast I was using these still, but I'll just show you. These are my Licky wooden needles. Absolutely lovely wooden needles. Can't fault them at all. Just I prefer metal, and I do use Chow Goos now. But what I'm going to have to do, because I've run out of decent cables to put my stitches on hold, or barber cords, I'm going to be using the Licky needles. Now I wouldn't recommend knitting the actual sleeve on this, and I won't be doing that because it could change my tension, because a lot of people will notice that the tension is different with metal and wood. There is a difference between the two. So all I'm doing is using this needle, because I can use this cable because I've got plenty of these available, and I can pop my sleeve onto this for safekeeping with these stoppers on. And then all I'll need to do is get my 12-inch circular on there when I come to knit it. I don't want to put it on a 12-inch cable at this point, because generally the stitches are quite bunched up, and if you're knitting on the body and you've got your stitches on hold for the sleeve, they will be getting moved about quite a bit while you're still knitting the body. So I do want to ensure they'll stay on, and because the cables have got these on, I know them stitches are going nowhere. So that's what I'll be doing. You can use scrap yarn. I'm not keen on using scrap yarn because I find it much harder to get the stitches off the scrap yarn and back onto the needles, and it really does frustrate me. So what I like to do is have it on a cable or a barber cord, because I find barber cords much easier to transfer the stitches back onto a needle. And I, as I was just mentioning before, I use 12-inch circulars for all my sleeves. I just find them much more enjoyable to knit on rather than doing magic loop. If you are going to do magic loop and you have so either a cable, a long one, you can obviously put your sleeve stitches ready on that, or yeah, for anyone using magic loop, and if they've got the needle available, they can put it in ready. But yeah, 12" is my preferred method for doing my sleeves. But I don't like to put them in at this stage because they can potentially, you can end up dropping stitches while you're knitting the rest of the body. Okay, so here we are. These are my first markers that I've just come to here. I'm going to slip the first one off. Then I am going to knit the raglan stitch, which is what the pattern's asking me to do. And then remove the second marker. So I've got 2 markers over there, if you can see them. It's pretty tricky to see what's on camera and what's not, and I've not put my guidelines down today. I will be getting a new stand, so I was actually, the reason part of the delay for this video is that I was waiting for my new stand, but it's still not arrived. It's clearly coming from abroad, which I wasn't aware of. Anyway, so here we are now. I've removed both markers, knit the raglan stitch, and I'm just going to check what it says to do. Alright, so the first thing we do is we're going to transfer the sleeve stitches on to, and that's all the stitches that we've got now. If you can see, it's very, like I say, it's bunched up on this cable, but all the way up to the next marker, every stitch that's on that needle needs to go onto your cable, whatever method you're using to transfer them and put those stitches on hold. Now I'm just going to screw on this stopper. I'm only using this needle as a guide, and I'll take it off and put a stopper on once I've got it on. Now there could be some rattling here, sorry, but if you want to know the stitch counts, although you should have already checked these in the pattern before sitting down to do this, as you can see, all I'm doing is just slipping my stitches across from one needle to the other, and this means that they'll all be safe on the cable until I come to knit the sleeves. But yeah, the stitch counts are given in the pattern, and you're just, because you've just counted and you've checked and you've done whatever you need to make sure you're thereabouts with your stitch counts, you should then be able to just transfer these from one marker to the next. This is your first sleeve. Now I don't know if, I'm just moving my knitting round, sorry. I don't know if my cable that I've now got that's going to be holding the body stitches on, which I'm going to be knitting from, I don't know if that is going to be too long, so I may need to adjust that at this point because it wasn't flowing very well. So I did add a little bit of extra cable length to my needles, but I'll be able to assess that when I get round. Now what we are going to be doing once we've transferred these sleeve stitches is we are going to be casting on some stitches for the underarms. And this is what I was referring to about when you try it on before you do this step, you haven't got those extra stitches. So you do have to just sort of do a bit of a guesstimate, but you can look at the depth of the raglan where it's hitting. What I normally like to do is once I've done this round and then I have knit, say maybe about 1 centimetre, I do actually like to have a try on again, because at that stage it is still, you know, relatively simple to pull back. So I've just removed that marker. All these stitches are now on my cable, and this is the needle attached to the spare cable. Just going to pull it round a bit, And as you can, I'll just try and show you in shot. This is what we'll be aiming for. And this is when you'll see the sleeve will come to life. So trying to show you without knocking everything off. What does it say now in the pattern? So we now have to cast on these extra stitches. I'm doing size 4, so I will cast on for the underarm. And the backwards loop method is literally, so you're casting onto this needle and you're just going to take it as if you're doing the cast on method that I've showed you, but you're just going to put your needle under the loop and tighten the loop onto the needle, so you're not actually knitting it, you're just literally like that. So wrapping it the same way as if you would for cast on I showed you, then pulling it onto there. And mine says to cast on 4, so I've just done that there. So it wasn't very many really, but the sizing seemed quite generous when I tried it on. And now we're going to knit the raglan stitch. Now what I'm going to do before I continue on with this side is I'm just going to take this needle off now, because I no longer need that on there. All my stitches are safely on the cables, and I'm just going to make sure that's secured. Hopefully when I've got this new camera it might make this a bit easier, but I don't know yet until I try it. Just pulling them a bit tighter, so hopefully they'll be out my way. When you have done the backwards loop cast on, you do just need to make sure that your yarn's on the right side of the work, because it wants to hang at the front here. But if you just take it under and towards the back, then it's ready for you to continue knitting. This stage is a little bit fiddly, but once you've done a couple of rows, it's should be absolutely fine. Obviously I've got these big stoppers in the way. Okay, so I've knit my raglan stitch. I'm now going to remove that second marker, and then I'm going to knit all the stitches of the front. And here we are, I'm at the next marker. So I'm going to remove the marker, I'm going to knit the raglan stitch, remove the second marker, and then I need to put these stitches on hold again. So I'm just going to attach my needle to the second cable. I'm not worried about it being too tight because I'm only using it just to get these stitches on. And I'm just putting the stopper on the other end. Okay, sorry if there's some jangling because they do want to knock on my desk. And these are the second sleeve stitches that I'm just going to pop onto this cable, just all the way across to the next marker. Almost done this now. Sorry, I think I keep knocking the camera. What is good at this point is when you do get to, when you've done this row and you start knitting in the round again, it's great because you feel like each row goes a bit quicker because you've not got those extra sleeve stitches on there as well. Because these last few rows on the increases seem like they were taking me forever. Yeah, I think I'm going to definitely have to take that extra extension out of my cable. Nearly there now though. Take the stitch marker off because that will just drop anyway. Make sure these are safely onto the cable. Just for a second, I'm just going to stick that on there. Right. Again, apologies for the knocking. Going to unscrew my needle and then screw this on, which is my stopper. Okay, fabulous. And then again, we need to do the cast on. And I'll show you this again so you can see the backward loop cast on. As I said before, mine is 4 stitches and it's just as if we are going to cast on, but we're just not doing the second part of that. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then again, make sure your yarn is round the back behind your needle. And then we're going to knit the raglan stitch. Then we're going to remove the marker. And then we're going to knit till we get to the beginning of round marker. And once I've done that, I will come back and I will show you what the whole knitting is looking like. Excuse the change of angle and a bit of the messy background of my desk, but I just wanted to show you exactly what your knitting should be looking like at this stage. So we've got our 2 sleeves that are separated now onto the cables. We've cast on underneath the arms, and now we're back here at beginning of round at the middle of the back. Now if you can see, I've picked out a little stitch marker here because what the pattern does say to do now is to remove this beginning of round marker and put one in underneath the arm here in the middle of the stitches you cast on. Now the way that I do this to make it really easy is I use one of these removable stitch markers. Hope you can see that. And it's got a clasp on that I can open. So I don't need to actually knit to that point. I can just open it, pop it between those 2 stitches, and I know that's my beginning of round marker. And I'll just show you that now. The number of stitches that I cast on underneath the arm here was 4. So there's the first one, there's the second one, and I'm just going to pop that there in between the stitches, and that's my new beginning of round marker. And now I can remove this one, and we will probably now just be continuing to knit in the round. So it says work stockinette in the round until the sweater measures a certain length, and it gives you a recommendation. Obviously this is totally customizable, and you can decide what length you are going to do for that. And yeah, so it's going to be a little while now before I get to the next point in this pattern. So this episode is going to be probably a bit of a shorter one, and when we come back next time, I will then be talking about finishing off the body and knitting the sleeves. Just remember, when you are knitting the body, you need to keep trying it on, because you need to decide what's going to work with what you're going to wear with the sweater. So which pants and which thing, and be careful not to just try it on with one pair of pants and decide on a length, because often I'll try mine on with my black trousers and then jeans, and it's totally different. So yeah, try it on frequently. Remember that it may grow slightly. In case of mine, I think it will grow a little bit because it's got alpaca in it, and it will bloom and soften, and hopefully, you know, the drape will increase. And yeah, I will see you in the next video where we will be doing the ribbing on the body, and hopefully then starting on the sleeves, and we'll be on to the final sections. Thanks for watching. Bye.